Hello, this is Sascha Ahrweiler. Welcome to our PhUSE webinar Wednesday in March. We have an exciting agenda ahead of us. We are still handling some technical issues here to get our first FDA speaker in, but I hope that can solve out during my introduction here. So let's have a quick look at the agenda. I will first give an introduction here from the PhUSE Board of Directors. I will then also introduce you to a new project about data science, which will also take a couple of minutes before we then hopefully will be able to hear from Helen from the FDA, from Helen and Elaine, an update on the technical conformance guide. And last but not least, we will hand over to Michael Harris, who is our PhUSE EU Connect chair this year in Amsterdam, and he will go through a couple of news streams. But let me first of all share with you an update on from the PhUSE Board of Directors. So I just wanted to draw your attention on our PhUSE Computational Science Symposium, which will be in Silver Spring as every year from June 9th to the 11th. The early bird closes in about 2 weeks, so please go ahead and register for this exciting conference where you have the chance to closely interact with FDA colleagues on advancing the entire industry. So the events usually sell out, so keep in mind to register early here. We also had a great US Connect in Baltimore. So this year, we just finished this a couple of weeks ago. It was an exciting event where we had 14 different streams. We had more than 40 exhibitors and sponsors and nearly 550 attendees. It was the second US Connect, so we really can see that that our US members are accepting this, and we received great feedback here. We had 2 very exciting and inspiring keynote speakers. So all in all, it was a very successful PhUSE event. And I just want to let you know that you can find all the presentations on our PhUSE website here. If you just go to phuse.eu and go under go to the archive, you will be able to find all the full papers and all the presentations. We will hear about the European Connect later from Michael, so I don't want to spend a lot of time here talking about this event, but it will take place in beautiful Amsterdam. It will take place in November. And here the registration will open just about next Monday. So, and the call for paper is already open. It will close at the end of April at the 26th. So for those of you who are familiar with PhUSE since a longer time, you know that we are usually oversubscribed with papers, so we will have a great conference. So if you haven't done that, please consider to present at this prime conference for clinical data science. And I also want to draw your attention here on the working groups, and I will actually go through one of the new working groups in a minute. So right now we have more than 60 active projects here at PhUSE, and we are really interested from the PhUSE board to gauge the training needs and on our working groups deliverables. So we would be very grateful if you could take a few minutes to complete a short survey so that we can certain your thoughts on the topic. So we the survey will we already sent that, but the survey will close at the end of this week. So if you would like to join also one of our projects, you can find all the details on our website, or you can email workinggroups.phuse.eu. And last but not least, there are also some single day events which will take place soon. There is a single day event in California in Foster City, which will take place on April 4th. and there is another single-day event in Germany. In this time, it will be in Heidelberg. In the past years, it has been in Frankfurt, but the Heidelberg SDE will start April 10th. Registration is open, so if you don't want to miss this opportunity, you should register soon. And the next webinar, let me please announce this as well. The next webinar Wednesday will be on April 24th, same time as now. Here, Scott Bellawuni will welcome you from the PhUSE board of directors, and we are very excited to have Lilian Rosario from the FDA to give you an overview about the CSS. We have Mary Nielsen about safety analytics. Tim Williams will talk about knowledge graphs. Kevin D about machine learning, and Ian Fleming and Jim McDermott will talk about design thinking. So that's about the introduction from the PhUSE. But now I would like to also give you a brief update about a new project, a new working group, which is labeled as educating for the future data science. Myself, I have the honor to work here with Nicolas Dubois from Device on this exciting project, and I want to briefly introduce you to that working group because we are still in the recruiting phase here for new volunteers. So for those of you who are not familiar with this PhUSE working group, so we have initiated the introduction into the Educating for the Future, or the Education for the Future working group back early last year. And the goal of this group was to educate the PhUSE community at large on several topics which are important for, or which will be important for the future. So there are actually three subgroups. One is one to care about the machine learning education, one is about data engineering, and the third one is about design thinking. So what we agreed on now is we don't want to go through all the details on machine learning, but we want to take a more holistic approach, and that's why we decided, okay, we will move the machine learning group, the machine learning education group, to more the emerging trends and technology streams, but that definitely left a gap in the education working group. So that's why we decided to come up with a new working group, and that's why we introduced the data science group here. Data science is clearly at a peak interest right now, and you see here the Google Trends chart. If you just at Google or data science at Google Trends, you would see that it really peaked in the past years. But what does it mean for the healthcare sector? So the healthcare sector right now sees a lot of new players in consumer devices. So think about the Apple Watches, or think about 24/7 blood glucose monitors. So we have a lot of wearables and also heart rate patches and so on. And the pharma industry is slowly but surely adapting to these technologies. And there are, for example, apps and devices and sensors which companies start to use in clinical trials. So this will create a huge amount of data for valuable data insights. And that is just one example where data science methodologies could be used to leverage the entire industry. So that was one of the reasons we decided to have to just connect to the data engineering working group actually, and continue with the data science groups. So you can already find data engineering topics on the website education.phuse.eu. So you can find there a data engineering subgroup, and that is actually gives you a one-stop shop for what is data engineering, what does it mean for the pharmaceutical industry. We talk about use case, we talk about other industry use case, and we want to do something very similar for data science here. So what the data engineering group did, they presented at several conferences already, and they produced a lot of website content. And we will just follow suit here because I truly believe, and that is all what is PhUSE about as well. We want to help people to develop themselves, and I thoroughly believe that you can teach. If you teach, this is the best way how to learn for yourself. So what we will do is we will find available learning material. We will find use cases in from the healthcare data sciences, and we will structure everything. We will create a one-stop shop to familiarize with healthcare data sciences. And eventually we will create a learning path into data sciences. What we won't do is that we will conduct training. So if people join this working group, I don't expect them to be absolute experts, but I expect them to review material and digest the material and then structure it in a way that the large PhUSE community can use it. So we will. We also won't work on use case, but we want to share use cases and solutions. And we also don't want to solve data science experiments, but we want to share solutions. And if people already shared, solve data science experiments here. I just want to show you a brief roadmap. So the first deliverable will be at the end of this year. We hope to present a paper in Amsterdam, and then create also a learning path by the end of this year, next year. Sorry about that. So when we talk about data sciences, what does it mean? So we try to cluster here the different data science sections. So we will give a clear intro into data science in pharma, talk about use cases. And for me, a clinical trial is always the best example for a data science experiment. I mean, whenever you hear me talking about data science, I say, okay, within the biometric divisions, we are doing data science since more than 30 years already. So what are different use cases except for clinical trials? So we will also collect material and present material about quantitative analytics. So think about usually summary statistics, but we will also handle or prepare material for advanced analytics. So think about AI, think about deep learning. Machine learning we have somehow already covered because there is already something on the education's website, which we will then integrate into our data science section. But we will also talk about data visualization. We will also closely collaborate with the data engineering group on data sciences, on the data sciences toolbox. There is already a lot. So if you want to know more about data engineering, how is it used in the pharmaceutical industry, please take a look at our webpage here at our education.phuse.eu webpage to find a lot of material already out there. But data science is not just about technical things. Data science is also about connecting the information with the story you want to tell. So data science is also about the storytelling part. So we want to collect material, present material about that as well. And as I said, eventually we will create a learning path here as well. So how are we going to do that? So we will collect a lot of videos, books, and articles, and then all these kind of things. So right now, our way to learn is completely different than a decade ago. If I take a look at how my kids learn, they have or the material. So, but what we really need to establish is a critical view on the data we collect, and that's what I expect from our working group, that we question what we find, so that we share the best material for you, so that we have a one-stop shop for data science in our education.PhUSE.eu website. Okay, so in case you are interested to advance yourself and the entire industry here by joining our new Education for the Future data science working group, please get in contact with us. So you can drop our colleague Wendy at PhUSE.eu an email, and we are still open for new volunteers. We already have a great team, great meaning good, so that and then we will kick off later this week. But you can join our working group at any time. So just let us know if you want to, want to be part of the group here. That brings me to the end of my presentation. I want to thank you for your attendance, and I would be really happy if you, continue to listen to the webinar, and also contact us in case you want to join our working group. So that brings me to the end of my presentation. Let me quickly check if Helena, in the meantime, joined the webinar, and if we solved the technical problems. Just taking a look at the chat.
Sascha, this is Wendy. We do still have technical issues, but if we can hand over to Michael for now, please.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, so I now would like to hand over to Michael then. Michael Harris, I'm not sure if I don't think that he needs further introduction, but Michael is our European Connect conference chair this year. So Michael, stage is yours.
Okay. Thank you, Sascha. Okay, just checking you can hear me okay?
Yep, loud and clear.
Okay, marvelous. And you can see my screen?
Yeah, as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, cool. Okay, so I'm here, as Sascha said in the intro, to talk about some new streams. But first, I'll sort of start off by sort of getting the basic information out there, as it were. So first thing to note, the eConnect will be between the 10th and 13th of November, and it's going to be located in Amsterdam. So just a little bit about Amsterdam. It has a strong tradition of culture and history and tourism, and is well renowned for its delicacies. So you can just bear with me a second. I'm having a slight technical issue of my own at this point. Okay, sorry about that. So the conference venue is the RA Amsterdam, and that's located in the Swedish Business District, or also known as the Financial Mile, and lies between the rivers Amstel.
Michael, did you change the slide? I still cannot.
No, same slide.
Sorry about that. Sorry.
No worries. As I said, I had a slight technical issue, but that's now resolved. So, yeah, as I said, so it's close to the historic city centre and the airport. So for the conference, so planning is well underway, and as always, we're going to build on the successes of the previous connects. So we're going to have parallel streams covering machine learning, analytics, risk-based monitoring, submission agencies, real-world data. You know, the list could go on. We're going to have posters. We're going to have some interesting topics on the hands-on workshops and discussion clubs. So just to name a few. But really what I plan to talk about today is what's going to be new. So we're going to have 3 new streams, as you can see on the screen. So we're going to have professional development, leadership and innovation, and personnel management. And the reason why I'm flagging this is not just because we're either reintroducing new topics or revamping existing topics, is that we're actually going to have a dual formatted stream. So By that, what we mean is the stream will have a presentation portion, and it will also have a hands-on session, so sort of the best of both worlds. Presentations will probably be 3 to 4 presenters, and the hands-on session will be an hour and a half to 2 hour session. So leadership and innovation will cover all aspects related to the management and leadership of processes and initiatives. There's going to be an interest in innovative thinking and pushing boundaries and providing a platform for sharing these experiences. So the stream will welcome and encourage ideas from within and outside of the industry. Professional development is another new one. So this will be for anyone who manages a person or a team. Topics covered could include methods for handling issues faced while line managing, and experiences of becoming a manager from new to experienced managers, and examples of tools and techniques used by the managers to aid in their role, such as how to conduct a successful interview, handling underperformers and difficult conversations, preparing a team for change. And finally, we've got the professional development stream. And the stream's intention is to create an arena where employees and the management alike can discuss and learn about the nuances of career advancement, providing those attending with the opportunity to learn new skills aimed at complementing already successful technical skills. In a rapidly changing industry, having a well-rounded approach to work and career provides individuals with a competitive advantage. So again, we'll be touching on topics such as consulting skills for industry, how to change roles, looking at how do we advise new entrants, how do we build resilience and tenacity, how do we encourage self-reflection. So just onto my final slide. I'm just going to remind you that the call for papers is open, so please get your abstracts in early. It's going to close in just under a month, so the closing date is the 26th of April. And to submit an abstract, you need to go to the PhUSE site, or well, I'm going to say, or the URL is actually on the middle of the slide. Just looking at the upcoming dates, registration opens on Monday, and the reduced rate for early bird closes on the 26th of April. And just onto the final point, just a thing to remind you of is the conference is in November. So with that, I will hand you over to Helena, hopefully.
Helena, can you hear us? This is Sascha. Hello?
Yep, so we're just waiting for Helena to dial in.
Okay. Michael, thanks for the great presentation. It's just 150 words needed for the abstract, right?
Yep, that's correct, Sascha.
So everybody should be able to get in like 150 words by the end of April.
Exactly. And yeah, and the hope with that is, as I said, even if it's just a case of sketching an outline, it's just so you're registering interest, and the stream chairs will follow up, and you have an opportunity to provide a bit more information, so that then we can sort of look at suitability, etc. But yes, as I said, if you've got an idea, or you're, we've got a great forum here, an opportunity to share our experiences. So you have a platform, but please do your best to use it, for the benefit of all.
Yeah, it's great for your own personal development. So I always can recommend to present at a PhUSE conference. Great. Okay, Wendy, where are we with Helena?
Can you hear us, Helena?
Doesn't seem
I can see she's,
to be the case.
yeah, I can see she's online and she's sending messages. She's trying to dial in, so please just bear with us a couple more minutes. We can only apologise to everyone for the technical issues we're having today.
Yeah, these things happen. It's a global call, and I'm always surprised how well that works.
I suppose whilst I've got an extra minute to talk, as it were, one thing that would be of interest to all would be with regards to the hands-on session. You know, we have a number of areas that we're exploring, but if there is something specific that you feel would be a good topic, please contact the office, and you know, we can throw that into the pots, as it were, and it could well be what we put on for you.
Okay. Can you share some examples where we had hands-on workshops in the past? So what kind of workshop were that?
So I suppose the key difference here is that historically our hands-on workshops have been more, what I'll describe as more technical. So we've had, whether it's been linked data or R or anything of that sort of nature. But with regards to these new sessions, they're going to be more focused in and around. So they may well be technical, but in a different sort of type of setting. So I don't want to use the word non-technical, but if you can imagine, we want to sort of distinguish from, say, something like a hands-on session for R, for example. So as I said, teams working away, but yeah, there are lots of ideas that have been thrown out there. But just actually thinking about our hands-on sessions, our sort of traditional ones, I know that we're looking at potentially presenting a workshop on Python. So that would be a first. And there's a few other topics in the background, but that seems to be quite exciting. So I'm you know, pretty sure that will be one of the options available.
Yeah, it's amazing how many great papers we had in the past conferences already about R and Python. So it's really the prime conference for clinical data science. So if you want to stay up to date, that would be the best conference to join this year. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Great. I didn't know that you had so much time to to do a sales pitch here for the but it's maybe sales pitch was also not most appropriate, but yeah, but I wish you all the best for your conference.
Thank you, Sascha.
Where are when you with Helena now? Does it still make sense to wait, or?
Hello, everybody. Sorry, I've just received an email from Helena. Unfortunately, she's not going to be able to make today's webinar. She sent her sincere apologies. She's had some technical issues joining the call, and she sent a message to say, we at FDA remain committed, open, transparent to communications about the study data technical conformance guide, and invite PhUSE to consider us for future webinars with recommendations for a brief technical run first before, so that we can make everything smooth running and make sure that she can join the call. So our sincere apologies to everybody that started in today, but unfortunately Helena isn't going to be able to make the call.
Yeah, thanks, Lauren. Yeah, these kind of things happen, but please accept our apologies here from PhUSE. I hope the information we shared with you today was still valuable. So thanks to Michael here for introducing us to.
May I interrupt for just a second? This is Elaine Thompson from the FDA, and I am connected. I'm still working on getting Helena connected. We had a little bit of a challenge dialing internationally, but Helena's actually given me the go ahead to start the webinar. I work very closely with her on the technical performance guide.
Perfect. Do you have the slides ahead of in front of you, or do you? I think Lauren has the slides as well. So
it would be easier if Lauren could put the slides up on PhUSE, and then I can see them once you're projecting.
Sure, that's not a problem.
So this is Helena, FDA. Helena's in.
Okay, for those of you who just decided to dial off,
Helena is in the phone call. I do not have, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to talk about myself in the third person. Voices can be anonymous. But I do not have access to the webinar.
Okay, so we are, Helena, this is Sascha. Thanks. It's great that you managed to call. I saw that a couple of people already left, but those of you who are still on, please stay on because we finally managed some of our technical issues here. So Lauren is currently sharing the slides, the slide deck here about the FDA study data technical conformance guide. So if you could just talk us through these slides, Helena, that would be lovely.
Okay, great. Let me pull them up myself, and then we can go from there. Give me a sec. Thank you, everyone, for your patience. I know this has been frustrating for everyone.
Thanks for giving it a try since 30 minutes. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, when I say the FDA is committed to open, transparent communications, this is just a demonstration. Okay, so I have the opening slide. Do we have Elaine on the phone?
Yep, this is Elaine. I'm here. I was just muted so we don't get any feedback or anything.
Okay, good. All right, so here we go. So Elaine and I have given this presentation before many times. We each come to it as study data standards experts. We've collaborated together in both the clinical and the non-clinical space, and we've collaborated across CDER and CBER, which are two separate centers within FDA. We are both, data standards SMEs, even though we represent different centers. I understand to some audience members that can be confusing at to some people, but just know that I represent CDER, Elaine represents CBER, though we work collaboratively both as centers and as SMEs on many of these issues. And everything that we say should coordinate and align with each other. So if there are misunderstandings, it's just in our verbal communications, not in a mismatch in any specific policies when there are things that CBER wants that CDER does not want, or vice versa, we try to make that very clear. Does everyone understand that piece? Okay, so could I have the next slide, please? Is the next slide displaying,
sure,
I guess?
Yeah.
With the topics, thank you. So the topics covered in this webinar, we'll go over new content for version 4.2.1. This .1 version was published in late December, early January of 2019. It covers, it was a special edition, as I like to call it, to align the FDA Technical Conformance Guide with the newly published Technical Rejection Criteria document, also published at the same time. These slides will also cover some of the content, some of the novel content from the October 2018, as well as the changes in January 2019. And we're going to focus on some of the new parameter codes and some of the SEND updates primarily in the interest of time. Could I have the next slide, please?
Yeah.
So thank you. So the revision for version 4.2, for version 4.2, which was published in October 2018, is here. This is lifted straight out of the online version. You can see we highlighted the sections that we generally cover in this discussion. And if I could have the next slide, please. This is for section 4.2.1, which was published in January of 2019, which still has the same content of the 2018 with these minor additions. Primarily, and I know this is confusing, and this can be confusing, sometimes I forget about it even, is that two of the appendices that we added in October of 2018, we decided to remove back out in the 2019 version because this content was now covered in the Technical Rejection Criteria document, which is a separate document. So instead of trying to keep this content continuously aligned across both of these documents, especially since we don't always have the same publishing scale. We opted to remove this content from the TCG, this document, the Technical Conformance Guide, and this content. The former Appendix F and G now exists only in the Technical Rejection Criteria document, which was updated in January 2019. And I know there's a lot of, I know we use the word technical a lot, so that's the Technical Conformance Guide is the TCG, and the Technical Rejection Criteria document, sometimes referred to as the TRC, are two separate documents maintained by two separate groups with two separate publishing schedules, though we align very closely. Does that make sense to everyone? Okay, so next slide, please. Thank you. So this is the new content. Next slide. Oh, hold on just a second, please. Let me make sure. Okay, got it. So one of the new content for the Technical Conformance Guide, or TCG, is the Appendix B, and the Appendix B has a list of parameters that we prefer or that we need for our own business. Thank you. That we need to conduct our internal review business, that our technology and that our algorithms need. So there are 60 parameters that we've chosen from the CDIS control terminology, and they're desired. We can't use the word, we opted not to use the word required because that has legal and guidance implications. So we use the word desired as a workaround for that. So if it makes sense for your trial, if these parameters describe your trial, please include these parameters in your trial summary domain upon submission. Otherwise, follow the appropriate implementation guide. Just as an aside, we've been getting a lot of questions in eData, or some of my colleagues have been approached by others in industry saying, can we send other parameters besides these desired parameters? And yes, absolutely. If it falls within the context of the implementation guide, or it makes sense for your trial, please include any additional parameters for your reviewers. Next slide, please. This is Appendix C. These are the trial summary parameters that are desired for if you're using if you're submitting in SEND or you're submitting non-clinical data. These are 41 parameters. These again are used using CDIS controlled terminology. Please use these parameters if it makes sense for your trial. Don't make up a bunch of stuff or stress out if these parameters don't make sense for your trial. We understand that. And then otherwise follow, for the rest of your trial summary domain, please follow the appropriate implementation guide. And again, it is encouraged that you consider any other parameters that make sense for your trial upon submission with your trial summary and your data. There were some typos and some other kind of errata in this table for Appendix B and Appendix C. We've corrected that both in some in January, and we'll be making some additional corrections. So that was just human error, and that human would be me. I made these tables and these appendices all by myself, and I made some mistakes. So those errors will be corrected. Next slide, please. Appendix D. Oh, I'm so excited about this one. So you guys in industry, and particularly those of you that may volunteer for SDOs like CDIS, know that you guys put a lot of time and effort in developing these other documents that may not be exactly implementation guides or models. And as an agency, we have really not had any way to communicate to industry about our feelings, our ability to accept data that may utilize some of these other documents that have been developed. We put models and implementation guides on the data standards catalog, but things that aren't straight up standards, we can't put on the catalog because it's for standards. So we put this up, so we developed a process, an internal process to evaluate, and we put these evaluations in Appendix D of the Technical Conformance Guide, and we put our first document here, which is the Codex, which stands for Confirmed Data Endpoints for Exchange for the SEND IG version 3.0. Now there are additional ones being developed externally at all times. You guys are very fruitful in your standards development, and just know that we appreciate it all. And we're currently evaluating other documents through our own internal process. And as these evaluations are completed, the results will be put here in Appendix D. Next slide, please. Appendix E, we tried to give some clarity about where things should go in the ECTD, particularly around tumor, and I think it got cut off a little bit there in the slide. Apologies, you can certainly go to Appendix E and the Technical Conformance Guide and read about them there and send any additional questions to eData. Those resources will be at the end of this presentation. I just wanted to highlight to those of you who may not be aware that this is available now. Next slide, please. And here we're just highlighting in particularly what to do with your tumor.xpt files, even when you're submitting SEND. I know it's a little counterintuitive, perhaps, to put it in the legacy folder, and we recognize that. But this is just, we have to work within this ECTD ICH construct, and we recognize that it may be awkward. For further details, please see section 4.1.3.3 in the TCG. I'm moving to the next slide. Also in section 4.1.1.3, we called out some new parameter codes. These are parameter codes that we've worked within the CDISC control terminology governance to develop parameters for, and these will help us collect data on and quantify when data has been submitted that represents one of the TAUGs, the Therapeutic Area User Guides, or TAUG. I know there's a variation in pronunciation, and I don't wish to confuse anyone. Or any of the tech specs that we have listed on the Study Data Standards website. We don't have a way to quantify the uptake, use, or submission of these data. So now we have these parameter codes, which allow you at industry to let us know that your data is being modeled following these, and we really appreciate the uptake of that, and we appreciate the collaborations with CDISC that allow us to work within their terminology set. Originally, when this was published in 2018, there were some typos, or there were some additional changes made to control terminology after the October 2018. I'm not sure exactly how we got mismatched with some of the actual parameter codes indicated in the October 2018 TCG, but that has since been aligned, and so look for those changes either in I don't think we got it in the January update. We had a lot going on with our own government shutdown. Some of you may recall that. If not, we will certainly look for those corrections in future technical conformance guide, but please always use the control terminal, the CDISC controlled terminology when using these parameter codes. The next slide, please. I don't have a particular slide number on this one, just for everyone to catch up. Oh, I think it's slide 12. So this is in section 5.2. This is where we list the therapeutic area user guides that have been evaluated by the agency and whose use is encouraged. And an addition in this section is we added specific version numbers to the therapeutic area user guides, or TAUGs, because these guys are starting to be versioned themselves, and we didn't want to be unclear or imply that any version is good, and I'm sure they're fine, but we are just calling them out specifically by version, since there's been so much great work and this area has evolved tremendously. Next slide, please. In section 4.1.1.3, we also call out some clarifications for the DV domain, which is for protocol deviations. The following variables besides the CDISC required variables should be included in the DV domains when submitting DV data. And these are the specific variables here. I'm not going to read them out because they're just a bunch of letters. Next slide, please. And now I'm going to pass this on to my esteemed colleague and collaborator, Dr. Elaine Thompson, and she's going to give you some SEND updates. Thank you.
Hi, so I'm going to talk about a few very specific SEND-specific updates, and then just go over sort of the list of all of the general SEND updates that we made to this version of the TCG. So next slide. So the first specific update I wanted to touch on is the lab domain in SEND. And so the language from the TCG is on the slide. And the take home is that we've noticed that some people are having a little bit of trouble representing tests like dipsticks that give categorical results, but the scales could be numeric. So an example is a dipstick with a scale of no result, and then 100, 250, 500. So those are character results. And when we use software usually to load and display non-clinical data because we get so much of it and we have so many reviewers. So the software stumbles if these categorical results are represented as numbers. So this is a reminder that categorical results go in the stress C variable and not in the stress N variable. Next slide. The next clarification we made is that sometimes it's not clear in the LB domain what number was used if results were outside the limit of quantitation. And again, this results from us using software to automatically calculate means. If the mean comes up different from the mean in the study report, then we have to track down what happened. And sometimes it's because the limit of quantitation that was used was different in the study report. So if you did use a limit of quantitation to calculate group averages, then place them in SUP-LB in CalCAN, and that way we can find them and reconstruct the way that you did the math in your submission. Next slide. The third update that we did, and I know this is kind of near and dear to PhUSE and non-clinical PhUSE and also to CDISC at this point. We've added some more detail about how to handle results in the PC and PP domain that are less than the limit of quantitation. So this clarification went out in March, and we've been working really hard to get the PC and PP domain generally working better for everybody who's trying to automatically generate pharmacokinetic profiles from SEND. So at this point, what we're probably, CDISC has a supplement to the SEND IG 3.1 that's going through review, and at this point, this is how we'd like the data to look. And then when the CDISC folks get the non-clinical PC PP domain updates through review and published, we'll go back, look at the TCG, look at the SEND IG, and do any reconciliation that's necessary. But this is the content that we've added now about less than limit of quantitation results. Next slide. So this is the summary. This is the rest of the major SEND updates, some of which Helena has already mentioned and a few of which I already mentioned. So again, we get a lot of questions about where tumor.xpt should be placed because our statisticians still need it. And so, as Helena mentioned, that goes in analysis data set legacy. And we do need that simplified trial summary.xpt included with tumor.xpt. We're asking for the simplified trial summary.xpt file whenever you submit electronic XPT files. So that helps us establish the study start date. As I mentioned, the specific domain updates are that categorical data in LB needs to be treated as categorical. And we've provided some detailed instructions for the limit of quantitation in LOQ. Another thing we mentioned briefly in the TCG is that the body weight gain domain, BG, is not required any longer for CEDAR submissions. As Helena mentioned, I'm from the Center for Biologics, and we're still working on our non-clinical review processes, and we don't require SEND data sets yet. We haven't determined whether the Center for Biologics is going to be wanting to use a BG domain or whether we'll also work from BW. So at this point, that's just for the Center for Drugs. Comments in the CO domain need to be limited to relevant content. Sometimes we get a lot of information from the laboratory instrument, the laboratory data management system that isn't useful for review. It's not mentioned in the non-clinical study report, and when our reviewers go looking at the comments, they get overwhelmed by sort of no change, no difference, other kinds of little comments, and so if there's a lot of volume of that, it can make the study really hard to review. So try to limit what you put in the CO domain, and then as Helena mentioned, we were really excited and pleased to be able to refer to the codex since it went through the public review process. So that document that CDISC has produced should be really helpful to you when you're preparing your SEND submissions. So that's everything for SEND. Helena? Are you talking to your mute button?
Hi. Yeah, I was doing so. That's a great update, Elaine. Thank you. I don't have anything else to add at this time. I think we are at time. Yeah. I know that we had some difficulties getting started, and I know Elaine and I were prepared to take questions. I don't know what her time constraints are, but I could hang around for a couple minutes for some questions or clarifications.
Okay. Thanks, Helena. Well. Yeah, thanks, Helena and Elaine for this great presentation. Again, I truly appreciate that your energy and to keep on trying to dial into this to the webinar. If you have questions, please type them into the chat window. So far, I don't see any question here in our chat window. Please be aware that we will record that we recorded this webinar, and we'll put that on our PhUSE website as well. So we might also be able to answer questions in our YouTube comment section, and we will definitely make sure that your questions will be answered. But let me wait a couple of seconds here to see if anyone is typing here. I don't see anything right now.
No, we haven't had any questions, Sascha.
Okay. Yeah, so there is one question if the presentations from today, especially here the FDA TCG presentation, will be distributed, and I think that's the case. So that we will definitely put them on our website as usual. So both PhUSE and FDA, I think we are all about transparency, so we definitely will share all the knowledge here. Okay. If there is no further question, I think we can conclude the webinar. Thanks to all the presenters. Special thanks to Elaine and Helena, and also to Michael. Yeah, let's conclude the webinar, and I wish you all a nice rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.